The judge held the file with both hands. Thick manila envelope, court seal unbroken. He read the label, looked at my sister, then at my parents sitting shoulder to shoulder behind their attorney. Then he looked at me. His voice was careful when he spoke. "Do they have any idea what's in here?" I met his eyes and nodded. Slowly. Once. What happened next took 11 minutes. The bailiff moved twice. My sister screamed loud enough for the clerk to flinch. My mother gripped the armrest until her knuckles turned ivory. And my father just stared at the floor, the way he'd been staring at it for 10 years. But that courtroom was the last chapter. The first one started on a Tuesday night in March, with a porch light and a baby I didn't expect. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. I'm Andrea, 34, a registered nurse in a small town in western North Carolina. 10 years ago, my sister left her newborn daughter on my porch and disappeared. My parents looked me in the eye and told me the baby was my problem. I raised her. I adopted her. And when all three of them came back demanding custody a decade later, I had one sealed file that changed everything. If you've ever been the reliable one in a family that only notices you when they need something, drop a comment and subscribe. I was 24 that March, fresh off a 12-hour shift at Blue Ridge Community Health. The kind of shift where you eat standing up and your scrubs smell like hand sanitizer and someone else's grief. I pulled into my driveway at 11:15. The porch light was on. I always left it on. Had since I moved into that little rental off Avery Road. The light was the first thing I noticed. The carrier was the second. It sat square in the center of my welcome mat. Infant car seat. Pale yellow padding. A lavender blanket tucked tight around something small and breathing. I dropped my bag and knelt. The baby was asleep. Maybe 2 weeks old. Tiny fists curled near her chin, skin still blotchy and new. A nurse knows how to check vitals without thinking about it. I pressed 2 fingers to her chest, watched for rhythm, counted respirations. Steady, warm. Fed recently, from the look of it. Then I saw the note. Folded once, tucked into the side of the carrier between the handle and the padding. Lined notebook paper, torn at the edge. I recognized the handwriting before I read the words. The same loopy cursive Amanda used on birthday cards she never mailed on time. Her name is Lily. I can't do this. Don't look for me. A. That was it. No explanation, no apology, no phone number. Just a name and an instruction. I looked up and down the street. Quiet. Porch lights on in a few houses, but no movement. Amanda's car was gone. I didn't know when she'd been there. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been 2 hours. I scooped Lily out of the carrier and held her against my chest. She stirred but didn't wake. I called 911 with my free hand, and then I called my parents. Mom's phone went to voicemail at 3 a.m. I called twice more. Nothing. Dad picked up on the 4th try, voice thick with sleep. I told him everything. The carrier, the note, the baby. He was quiet for a long time. "I'll talk to your mother," he said, and hung up. By sunrise, I'd fed Lily formula from a can of Enfamil I bought at the 24-hour Walmart in Valdez, still in my scrubs, a newborn in a carrier on the checkout belt, while the cashier gave me a look I pretended not to see. I drove to my parents' house at 8. 20 minutes on Route 18, Lily asleep in the back. Their house looked the same. Brick ranch, American flag on the mailbox, azaleas Margaret had planted the year I graduated high school. I carried Lily to the front door and knocked. Dad opened it, stood aside like he wanted to let me in, but Mom appeared behind him, arms crossed, expression set. She didn't step forward, didn't look at Lily. "Your sister made her choice," she said. "We warned her about Thomas. We told her that man was beneath her. She didn't listen. Mom, this is a baby. She's your burden now." The words landed like a door slamming. Amanda made her mess. We're not cleaning it up. I looked at Dad. He had one hand on the doorframe, knuckles white. His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't say a word. Mom shut the door. I stood on that porch holding Lily for a full minute before I turned around. Back in the car, Lily slept. I sat behind the wheel with the engine off and made two decisions. I would call Child Protective Services, and I would ask them to place Lily with me. The CPS social worker came the next afternoon. Her name was Dana Caldwell, mid-40s, practical shoes, clipboard thick with forms. She walked through my apartment, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen with a table I'd bought at a yard sale. Small, but clean. Dana checked the smoke detectors, the locks, the water temperature. She asked where the baby would sleep. I showed her the second bedroom, empty except for a dresser and a box fan. "I can have a crib by tomorrow," I said. "My coworker has one in storage." Dana nodded, made a note. "You're employed full-time?" "Registered nurse, Blue Ridge Community Health." Another note. "And the mother, any idea where she went?" "None. Her phone is disconnected." Dana explained kinship placement. Lily could stay with me while CPS investigated. If Amanda didn't surface and no other family stepped forward, we'd move toward formal guardianship. I signed the temporary placement papers that evening with Lily in a borrowed bassinet beside the kitchen table. That first week was triage. I called my supervisor, Dr. Tran, and asked to switch from night shifts to days. She didn't hesitate. "Take the time you need," she said. "We'll make it work." I cut everything I could from my budget. Gym membership gone, eating out gone, streaming services gone. Formula and diapers became line items in a spreadsheet I kept on my phone. 5 in the morning became my anchor. Coffee brewing in the dark, Lily in the crook of my arm, the kitchen smelling like Folgers and Similac. I learned to do everything one-handed. Pour coffee, check my phone, fold a burp cloth. Raising Lily was triage. You stop the bleeding first. You ask questions later. Lily smiled at 6 weeks, rolled over at 4 months, said something close to "ma" at 9 months, and I pretended it counted even though it might have been gas. By her first birthday, I had a rhythm. Morning shift at the clinic, Lily at the church daycare 3 blocks away, pick up at 4, dinner, bath, books, bed. Dr. Tran brought over bags of clothes her own daughter had outgrown. The nurses at the clinic threw me a belated baby shower in the break room. Cake from Food Lion, a stack of onesies, a gift card to Target that made me cry in the bathroom after everyone went back to their patients. I sent my parents a photo of Lily every month. Email, because Mom didn't text and Dad barely checked his phone. I wrote the same thing each time. "Here's Lily this month. She's healthy and growing. You're welcome to visit anytime." Mom never responded. Not once. Dad replied exactly once, month 7. "She looks healthy." No follow-up, no visit, no phone call. I saved every email in a folder labeled family. I tried to find Amanda, called her old number, still disconnected. Searched social media, asked mutual friends from high school, checked with the sheriff's office. They'd filed a missing person report, but Amanda was an adult who'd left voluntarily. No sign of foul play, nothing they could do. She wasn't missing. She was gone. By month 12, I filed for temporary legal guardianship. Karen Bellamy, a family law attorney in Marion with 20 years of practice, took my case at a reduced rate after hearing the story. She said something I wrote down and kept: "Document everything. You never know when the people who weren't there will try to rewrite the story." The hearing was in Burke County Family Court, a room I'd walk into 3 more times over the next decade. Small courtroom, wood paneling the color of weak tea, fluorescent lights that buzzed when the building's heating kicked on. Karen stood beside me. Lily sat in her carrier on the bench, gnawing on a teething ring. Amanda had been served by publication, notice posted in the county newspaper, the legal equivalent of shouting into a canyon and waiting for an echo that never comes. She didn't respond, didn't appear, didn't send a lawyer or a letter or a postcard. My parents were notified through their attorney. Margaret's response arrived in a letter. "We do not oppose guardianship but request no further contact regarding this matter." Karen read it aloud in the courtroom. The judge, not Whitfield, a different one, younger, glasses, paused on the last line. "No further contact." He looked at me. Is the respondent's mother aware she's relinquishing involvement? She is, Your Honor, Karen said. The letter speaks for itself. He signed the order. Temporary legal guardianship of Lily Rose Porter, granted to Andrea Elaine Porter. Karen put her hand on my shoulder in the hallway and said, "This is step 1. I carried Lily out of the courthouse into March sunlight. Same month she'd been left on my porch. I sat in the parking lot with the engine running, Lily asleep in the back seat. And I let myself feel the weight. Not sadness, not victory. Just the gravity of it. I was responsible for this child in a way that had a judge's signature behind it now. I wiped my face, put the car in drive, and went to the grocery store, because we were out of bananas. Years 2 and 3 were defined by what didn't happen. I kept sending monthly emails, Lily's second Christmas, her first day at daycare, the afternoon she fell off a step stool and needed 3 stitches above her eyebrow. 96 emails over 8 years ultimately. I counted them later, when it mattered. Mom didn't reply. Dad sent a Christmas card the second year. Store-bought, poinsettias on the front, signed Dad in blue ink. No note, no message, no mention of Lily. Third year, nothing at all. Amanda surfaced once. Year 2. My phone rang at 10 at night. Charlotte area code. Andrea, it's me. Her voice sounded the same, light, slightly rushed, like she was always halfway out the door. She didn't ask about Lily. She asked if I could wire her $300 for a security deposit. Do you want to know about your daughter? I said. The line went quiet for 5 seconds. Then she hung up. She called again the following year. Same pattern. Needed $500 for rent. Spoke fast. Didn't ask about Lily. This time I asked her directly. Amanda, she's walking and talking and she asks about you. Do you want to see her? Amanda's voice sharpened. You owe me. You have my kid. I didn't raise my voice. She's not leverage, Amanda, she's a child. Amanda hung up again. North Carolina is a one-party consent state. I recorded both calls. Karen had told me to. I logged dates, times, duration, and summaries in a spreadsheet. Each call confirmed the same thing. Amanda knew where Lily was, knew how to reach me, and chose contact only when she needed money. She never once asked what Lily looked like, what she ate for breakfast, or whether she slept through the night. Year 3. Lily could count to 20, loved applesauce, and called me Mama. Karen filed the petition for involuntary termination of Amanda's parental rights, willful abandonment under North Carolina statute, 6 consecutive months without meaningful contact, support, or any attempt to resume parenting. Amanda had provided none of those things for 3 years. She was served by publication again. Same newspaper, same canyon, same silence. The hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the CPS record, my guardianship file, the documented absence, and Amanda's failure to respond. He terminated her parental rights effective immediately. Amanda could have fought it. Could have hired a lawyer, filed a response, shown up in court with a plan. She could have simply called and said she wanted to be a mother. She did none of those things. Adoption proceedings followed within months. Karen handled the paperwork. I brought Lily to the courthouse for the finalization hearing, and the judge, a woman this time, silver-haired, kind eyes, asked Lily if she knew what was happening. Lily held my hand and said, "Mama said I'm getting adopted." The judge smiled. Signed the decree. Records sealed by court order. Andrea Elaine Porter, legal adoptive mother of Lily Rose Porter. Walking out of the courthouse, Lily pointed at the flagpole in front of the building. "That's a big flag, Mama." "It is," I said. That night I left the porch light on, same as always. It had become a habit I never examined. The light that was on when I found her. The light that was on every night since. Lily, 3 years old and freshly mine in the eyes of the law, pressed her nose against the screen door and said, "Light on, Mama." "Light on," I said back. I thought the hard part was over. You know that feeling when you've done everything right, every document filed, every late night shift worked, every tear wiped, and you think you've earned some peace? I thought so too. But family has a way of reappearing exactly when they smell something valuable. If you've ever been the reliable one in a family full of runners, keep watching. Lily at 7 was a reader. She devoured chapter books the way other kids devoured chicken nuggets. Fast, messy, and with total commitment. Her teacher, Mrs. Harding, told me at the fall conference that Lily read at a 5th grade level and had an opinion about everything, delivered politely but firmly. I recognized that. Our morning routine had settled into something I could set a clock by. 5 a.m., coffee in the dark, Lily padding into the kitchen 10 minutes later in bare feet, climbing into her chair, cereal bowl already waiting. She'd eat and tell me about her dreams while I drank my coffee and made her lunch. I dreamed about a castle, Mama, with a moat. But the moat was full of orange juice. That sounds sticky. It was delicious. Our house was small. Same rental off Avery Road, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. But it had Lily's drawings taped to the refrigerator, a bookshelf in the living room that sagged under the weight of library halls, and a kitchen table where we did homework and ate spaghetti and played Uno on Friday nights. I'd been promoted to lead nurse at the clinic. The pay increase wasn't dramatic, but it covered braces and field trips and a savings account I added to each month. Lily knew she was adopted. I'd told her when she was 5, in words she could hold. Your birth mother wasn't able to take care of you. I chose to be your mama. She thought about it for a day and then said, You're my real mama. I didn't correct her. She was right. This was the year Thomas Garrett found us. I didn't know his name then, only that a letter arrived one Wednesday afternoon with a return address in Hickory, 40 minutes east, and a handwriting I'd never seen before. Thomas Garrett was a contractor, built decks and additions and the occasional custom home in the Catawba Valley. His letter was handwritten on lined paper, careful block print, the kind of penmanship that comes from filling out invoices by hand. He explained himself in plain sentences. He'd dated Amanda briefly 8 years ago, before she left town. She never told him she was pregnant. He never knew Lily existed until a mutual acquaintance from Morganton, someone who'd known both Amanda and Thomas, saw a photo I'd posted of Lily at a school event. The resemblance, Thomas wrote, stopped him cold. He asked if I'd be willing to talk. He didn't demand anything. Didn't threaten. Didn't mention lawyers or rights. I called Karen Bellamy the same day. He has no legal standing, Karen said. The adoption is final, but if you want to let him into Lily's life, that's your choice, not a court's. I thought about it for a week. Then I called Thomas. We met at a diner in Drexel, halfway between Morganton and Hickory. He was 33, broad-shouldered, calloused hands, quiet the way some men are quiet, not shy, just efficient with words. He brought a photo of himself at Lily's age. The resemblance was obvious. Same wide-set eyes, same stubborn chin. We agreed on a DNA test. Results came back in 10 days. Thomas Allen Garrett was Lily's biological father. He didn't celebrate or cry. He sat across from me at that same diner and said, I missed everything. I want to do right by her. We set ground rules, supervised visits once a month. He'd meet Lily as Mr. Thomas. No pressure on the word father unless Lily chose it. He agreed to every condition without argument. Thomas showed up. That was the thing about him. He just showed up. First Saturday of every month, rain or shine, parked in my driveway in his work truck with the Garrett construction decal on the door. He brought Lily books about building things, how bridges work, how houses stand up in storms. She loved them, called him Mr. Thomas and peppered him with questions about whether you could build a treehouse that was also a library. With enough lumber, yeah, he said. He was careful around me, respectful. Never overstepped, never lingered too long, never tried to play a role that wasn't his yet. After 4 months, I let him take Lily to the park supervised. After 8 months, she showed him her report card. He framed it in his office. Over that year, Thomas's business grew. Not wealthy grew. Steady grew. A second crew, a used excavator, contracts with 2 local developers. He lived modestly, drove the same truck. But he saved. And one afternoon, sitting on my porch while Lily played in the yard, he told me what he'd done. "I set up a trust," he said. "Education fund. For Lily. 80,000 to start. Life insurance names her as beneficiary." I stared at him. He looked straight ahead, watching Lily chase a butterfly across the grass. "I missed her first 7 years," he said. "I can't get those back. But I can make sure she's taken care of no matter what happens to me." He'd named me sole trustee. Not Amanda. Not my parents. Me. His estate attorney had drawn up the papers. Thomas had also written a notarized affidavit, filed with his lawyer, stating that Amanda had abandoned Lily, that I was the sole caregiver, and that under no circumstances should the trust be transferred to anyone else. I didn't know then how much those words would matter. 6 months after setting up the trust, Thomas mentioned chest tightness at a Saturday visit. Nurse in me fired immediately. "How long?" "Couple weeks, probably just the job." "Go to a cardiologist, this week." He waved it off the way men in their 30s wave off anything that sounds like a doctor's appointment. 3 weeks later, my phone rang at 7 in the morning, a man named Dale Burris, Thomas's business partner. Thomas had collapsed on a job site in Newton. Heart attack. Massive. Paramedics worked on him for 22 minutes. He was 35 years old. I sat on the edge of my bed and held the phone against my ear and listened to Dale Burris apologize for calling so early, as if the hour was the part that mattered. Lily was in the kitchen eating cereal. I could hear her spoon clinking against the bowl. I told her after school. She sat on the couch with her backpack still on and cried quietly, the kind of crying where the shoulders shake but no sound comes out. She'd barely known him. But Mr. Thomas had shown up for her in a way that made those months feel like a lifetime. The probate took almost a year to settle. Thomas's estate, Garrett Construction's equity, life insurance, personal savings, and the education trust he'd seeded. Total value of the trust after probate, life insurance payout, and final contributions: $278,400. I was confirmed sole trustee. Everything went through Karen Bellamy's office. Thomas's obituary ran in the Hickory Daily Record. The last line read, "Survived by a daughter, Lily." I read those words and felt grateful and gutted at the same time. I didn't know anyone else was reading them too. The weeks after Thomas's death were quiet in the way that grief is quiet. Not peaceful, just muffled. Lily pulled inward. She still went to school, still did her homework, still said, "Good morning, Mama," at the kitchen table. But the spark was lower. She slept with the lavender blanket every night, the same blanket she'd been wrapped in the night Amanda left her on my porch. It was threadbare now. I'd patched it twice, once with a scrap of fabric from a pillowcase, once with iron-on tape from the craft section at Walmart. The patches didn't match, and Lily didn't care. She held that blanket like it was the last thing anchoring her to something she couldn't name. One night she climbed into my bed, something she hadn't done since she was 6. She pressed her back against mine and whispered into the dark, "Mama, why do people leave?" I turned over, brushed her hair back. "Sometimes people aren't ready," I said. "Sometimes they're scared. And sometimes they don't get a choice." She thought about that. Mr. Thomas didn't get a choice. No, baby. He didn't. She fell asleep with the blanket bunched under her chin. I lay there for an hour, staring at the ceiling, managing grief on 3 levels: mine, Lily's, and the bureaucracy of probate paperwork stacked on the kitchen counter. The next morning, I sat at the table and filed trust documents. Every receipt, every form, every letter from the estate attorney. My binder, the one Karen Bellamy had told me to keep years ago, was getting thick. It had started as a folder of emails and CPS reports. Now it held guardianship orders, adoption decrees, trust paperwork, and Thomas's affidavit. 3 inches of proof that one person had shown up. The letter from Thomas's estate attorney arrived on a Thursday. Formal stationery, Davis and Harrelson, attorneys at law, Hickory, North Carolina. Inside was the finalized trust document, confirmation that $278,400 was held in trust for Lily Rose Porter's education and welfare, with Andrea Elaine Porter as sole trustee. But the letter also contained something I hadn't fully read before. Thomas's affidavit, the notarized original, filed with the trust, now part of the permanent record. I sat at the kitchen table and read every word. I, Thomas Allen Garrett, father of Lily Rose Porter by birth, do hereby attest, Lily's birth mother, Amanda Marie Porter, abandoned the child within 2 weeks of birth. I did not learn of Lily's existence until she was 7 years old. Since that time, I have maintained regular contact and financial support exclusively through Andrea Elaine Porter, Lily's adoptive mother, who has provided sole, continuous, and devoted care for the entirety of Lily's life. The final paragraph. It is my explicit wish that Andrea Elaine Porter remain Lily's sole legal guardian and trustee. Under no circumstances should custody or trust management be transferred to Amanda Marie Porter or to Margaret and Robert Porter, who declined involvement in the child's life and refused repeated invitations to participate in her upbringing. He'd written the words "under no circumstances" and underlined them twice. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in the binder between the adoption decree and the trust documents, closed the binder and locked it in the filing cabinet beside my bed. Lily was in her room doing homework. The lavender blanket was draped over the back of her desk chair, the way she always kept it close. I read Thomas's words 3 times. Not because they surprised me, because they felt like armor I didn't know I'd been fitted for. I didn't know how Amanda found out. Later, Karen Bellamy traced it. Thomas's obituary was published in the Hickory Daily Record, open to anyone with an internet connection. It listed his full name, his business, and a single line at the bottom. Survived by a daughter, Lily. Probate records in North Carolina are public. Amanda searched the Burke County Court filings online and found the trust summary. Not the full document, but enough. The beneficiary's name, the approximate value. She called my mother that same week. I know this because Margaret told me later, in court, when it no longer mattered what she admitted. Amanda's pitch was simple. Did you know Lily's father left her almost $300,000? Margaret's response, by her own account. What? The 3 of them met at my parents' house. First time Amanda had set foot in Morganton in nearly a decade. I imagine the scene. Amanda at the kitchen table where I'd eaten cereal as a kid, Margaret across from her, Robert in the corner trying not to be there. Amanda laid it out. If they filed for custody and won, if a judge granted some form of shared custody or reinstated Amanda's parental rights, they could petition to change the trustee. Family court could reassign trust management from me to Amanda, or to a joint arrangement that gave them access. The logic was twisted, but it was real. This wasn't a reunion. It was arithmetic. Amanda hired a lawyer in Charlotte before she ever called me. Russell Drake, family law, aggressive reputation, expensive retainer. She was already building a case before anyone knocked on my door with an olive branch. The olive branch came next, and it smelled exactly like what it was. Amanda showed up on a Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen. Lily was at a friend's house for a playdate. Amanda didn't know that. She'd come hoping to see Lily, and the empty driveway except for my car must have disappointed her. She stood on my porch, the same porch, wearing a pressed blouse, pearl earrings, and a smile that looked like it had been practiced in a car mirror. I opened the screen door but didn't invite her in. Andrea. She said my name like she was tasting it. I know I've been gone. I know I've made mistakes. But I've changed. I want to be part of Lily's life. She paused, tilted her head the way she used to when she wanted something from Dad. We're her real family. The words sat between us like a dropped glass. You've been gone for 10 years, Amanda. I know, and You didn't call on her birthday. Not once. Not one time. Amanda's jaw tightened, just slightly, the way it always did when a conversation wasn't going the direction she'd rehearsed. She recovered fast. Mom and Dad want to see her too. We all do. We've been talking, and Mom told me Lily was a burden. That was her word. People change. Some do, I said. I'll think about it. I closed the screen door, watched through the mesh as Amanda walked back to her car. A white Lexus sedan with a Charlotte dealership frame. She sat in the driver's seat for a minute before pulling away. I called Karen Bellamy before Amanda reached the highway. Karen listened, then said the thing that put it all into focus. If she's already been to a lawyer, she's not here for a reunion. She's here for a case. The next week, my phone started ringing. Margaret called first, her voice warm for the first time in 8 years, which told me everything I needed to know. We've been meaning to reach out, sweetheart. We miss our granddaughter. We'd love to see her. Sweetheart. 8 years of silence, and now I was sweetheart. I kept my voice level. I appreciate that, Mom. Lily is doing well. I'm open to a supervised visit at a neutral location if you're interested. Silence. Then. Supervised? We're her grandparents. You requested no further contact. Your letter is on file with the court. She didn't have a response for that. Amanda texted me photos of toys, a stuffed unicorn, a set of art supplies, a purple backpack with Lily's name embroidered on the front. For when we visit, she wrote. I didn't reply to the text, but I saved it. Robert called separately. Awkward, stilted, reading from something. Your mother and I think it's time we all sat down as a family, for Lily's sake. I'd welcome that, Dad. I've been inviting you for 8 years. He didn't have a comeback either. I took everything to Karen. She spread the texts, the call log, the emails on her desk, and drew a timeline on a legal pad. They're building a narrative, she said. The story they want to tell a judge is, we tried to be involved. Andrea shut us out. Every message they send you is a future exhibit. Karen's instruction was precise. Respond to everything, in writing, politely. Accept nothing without conditions. Create a paper trail that showed I was reasonable, and they were the ones who'd vanished. I did exactly that. Every text got a measured reply. Every call got a follow-up email summarizing what was said. The binder grew another half-inch. They didn't take the supervised visit. Instead, 3 weeks after Amanda's first appearance on my porch, a process server knocked on my door at 8 in the morning. Lily had already left for school. I answered in my scrubs, coffee in hand, and the man handed me a manila envelope with the Burke County Superior Court seal. Petition for custody modification. Petitioner, Amanda Marie Porter. Co-petitioners, Margaret Ann Porter and Robert James Porter. I stood in the doorway and read the summary. Allegation 1. The respondent has systematically alienated the minor child from her biological family. Allegation 2. Family reunification is in the best interest of the child. Allegation 3. The co-petitioners have been denied access to their granddaughter by the respondent. I looked up from the filing. Through Lily's open bedroom door, I could see her bed. Sheets pulled up neatly the way I'd taught her, pillow squared, and the lavender blanket folded on top, faded and patched and 10 years old. Everything started with that blanket. Everything came back to it. I closed the front door, set the envelope on the kitchen counter, and finished my coffee. Then I called Karen. They filed, I said. I know, she said. I got the notice 20 minutes ago. I've been preparing for this since you told me about Amanda's visit. Karen had already compiled our response. The sealed adoption file, 8 years of monthly emails, CPS records, Thomas's affidavit, the recorded phone calls, the timeline of Amanda's probate records access, September 3rd, and the date the custody petition was filed, September 25th. 22 days between discovering the money and filing a lawsuit. Karen said, everything we need is already in that binder. We just need the judge to open the file. Here's what Amanda didn't understand. I wasn't the sister she left behind with a baby and a problem. I was the woman who'd spent 10 years building something unbreakable. One document at a time, one bedtime story at a time, one porch light left on at a time, and every single piece of it was in that file. If you know what it feels like to be underestimated by your own family, stay with me. Karen Bellamy's office was on the second floor of a converted Victorian in Marion, 15 minutes from my house. Her desk was buried in files, but she could find anything in 30 seconds. She pulled out my binder, 3 inches thick now, blue cover, tabs labeled in my handwriting, and opened it flat between us. "Walk me through it," she said. So I did. Tab 1, the CPS report from the night of abandonment. Officer Reyes's notes, Dana Caldwell's placement assessment. Tab 2, Margaret's letter, filed during the guardianship hearing, requesting no further contact regarding this matter. Tab 3, 96 monthly emails I'd sent to my parents, spanning 8 years. 96? Responses received. 1. Robert. Month 7. Nothing after that. Tab 4. Amanda's phone calls, the recordings, the transcripts, both about money, neither about Lily. Tab 5. The involuntary termination of parental rights, the adoption decree, the sealed court record. Tab 6. Thomas Garrett's affidavit, notarized and filed, naming me sole trustee and explicitly excluding Amanda, Margaret, and Robert. Tab 7. The timeline Karen had built. Amanda accessed Thomas's probate filing online on September 3rd. Filed the custody petition on September 25th. 22 days. Karen closed the binder. "We're not going to argue with their lawyer," she said. "We're not going to get emotional or give speeches. We're going to submit this file and let the judge read it. 9 years of documentation against 3 weeks of crocodile tears." She paused. "You built this, Andrea. Every email you sent, every call you logged, every receipt you filed. This is your case." I looked at the binder, my handwriting on every tab. "No," I said. "This is Lily's." Russell Drake took my deposition in a conference room at his firm in Charlotte. He was mid-50s, silver watch, the kind of lawyer who leaned forward when he asked questions like proximity was a tactic. Amanda wasn't in the room. Just Drake, his paralegal, Karen, and a court reporter. Drake started soft. "Ms. Porter, you love Lily, correct?" "I do." "And you'd agree that a child benefits from knowing her biological family?" "I'd agree that a child benefits from stability and people who show up." His smile thinned. He shifted. "Isn't it true that you refused to let Lily's grandparents visit?" "No. I sent monthly updates for 8 years. I have copies of every email. Would you like to see them?" Drake didn't want to see them. He moved on. "Isn't it true you concealed Lily's biological father from the family?" "No. Thomas Garrett contacted me. Amanda left without telling anyone she was pregnant, including him." "You're managing a trust worth nearly $300,000. Don't you think the biological family deserves some oversight?" "Lily is my family. Legally, permanently. The trust was established by her biological father, who specifically chose me as trustee." Karen sat quietly through most of it. She only intervened twice, once on a procedural objection, once when Drake tried to introduce a line of questioning about my personal finances that had nothing to do with the custody petition. The moment that mattered came near the end. Drake asked whether I'd ever spoken negatively about Amanda to Lily. I looked at him evenly. "I told Lily her birth mother wasn't ready. That's the truth. I didn't add adjectives." Drake's pen stopped moving. His paralegal looked at the table. Karen told me afterward. He expected tears. He got a binder and receipts. While Karen and I prepared for court, Margaret went to church. First Baptist, the one she'd attended since before I was born. The one where she organized the fall bake sale and sang alto in the choir, and knew every name in every pew. She told her version to anyone who'd listen, the abridged, sympathetic cut. Our granddaughter was kept from us. Andrea wouldn't let us see her. "We're just trying to be a family again." It worked on some people. I noticed it at the Ingalls on Main Street. Mrs. Hatcher, who'd known me since I was 12, looked past me in the cereal aisle like I was a smudge on the shelf. 2 women from the choir whispered when I picked up Lily from church daycare. The youth pastor, a young guy named Evan, asked me awkwardly if everything was okay at home. I didn't fight it. Didn't go door to door with my binder. didn't post on social media or write a letter to the church bulletin. I told one person, Dr. Tran, my supervisor, my friend. She listened over coffee in the break room and said, "Why don't you set the record straight?" "Because I'm not on trial in the church parking lot," I said. "I'm on trial in a courtroom, and that's where the evidence goes." But Margaret's campaign had a crack in it. Mrs. Colleen Brewer, 72, former Sunday school teacher, the kind of woman who remembered every child she'd ever taught, had babysat Lily twice when I was stuck at the clinic. She cornered Margaret after Wednesday prayer meeting. "I've known that child her whole life, Margaret. Andrea never kept anyone away. You chose not to come." Margaret's face went blank, the way it always did when someone called her bluff. "You don't understand the full picture," she said. Mrs. Brewer didn't blink. "I understand an empty chair." Lily found out the way kids find out everything, from another kid. A boy in her class, Tyler Meeks, told her at recess that his mom said Lily's real mom wanted her back. Lily came home quiet that afternoon. She did her homework at the kitchen table without talking, ate half her dinner, and took a bath without being asked. At bedtime, she climbed into my bed instead of hers. She hadn't done that since Thomas died. She pressed her back against mine and pulled the lavender blanket up to her chin. She'd carried it from her room like a shield. "Mama." "Yeah, baby." "Are they going to take me away?" I rolled over and looked at her. 10 years old. Eyes that looked like Thomas's. Chin that looked like Amanda's. Heart that was entirely her own. "Nobody is taking you anywhere," I said. "You are my daughter. The law says so. My heart says so. And I say so." She searched my face for a long time, the way children do when they're deciding whether to believe an adult. Then she pressed her forehead against my shoulder and closed her eyes. She was asleep in 5 minutes. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe. The house was quiet. The porch light hummed faintly through the window. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I lay still and counted the cost of what Amanda and my parents had done. Not to me, but to a 10-year-old girl who'd spent a week afraid that the word real meant something other than what she'd lived. The next morning, I called Karen before my coffee was finished. "Whatever it takes," I said. "I need this over." Karen filed 2 motions in the following week. The first requested that the sealed adoption records be made available for judicial review only, not public, not discoverable by the opposing party, but visible to Judge Harold Whitfield in chambers. Grounds: the records directly address the petitioner's legal standing. The second motion requested permission to introduce Thomas Garrett's notarized affidavit as evidence, a posthumous declaration by the child's biological father, filed with the trust and witnessed by his estate attorney. Russell Drake objected to both. He argued the sealed records were irrelevant to a best interest analysis and that the affidavit was hearsay. Judge Whitfield reviewed the motions in chambers and granted both. The sealed file would be presented at the hearing. Thomas's words would be heard. Karen also filed what she called the timeline exhibit, a single-page document showing 2 dates. September 3rd. The day Amanda accessed Thomas Garrett's probate records through the Burke County online portal, verified by IP address log from the county's public records system. September 25th. The day the custody petition was filed. 22 days. 1 page, 2 dates. The gap between discovering money and pretending to discover motherhood. Drake requested a continuance. He wanted more time to prepare. Judge Whitfield denied it. "The child's stability is the court's primary concern," he said. "This matter will proceed as scheduled." Karen called me that evening. "The hearing is set for October 14th. Everything we need is in that file." "And if it's not enough?" Karen paused. "Andrea, you've been building this case for 10 years. You just didn't know it." The hearing was 3 weeks away. I'd waited a decade for something I never wanted to happen. 3 more weeks felt like nothing. The night before the hearing, I laid my clothes out on the bed. Navy blazer, white blouse, gray slacks. Conservative, professional. Not trying to impress anyone, trying to look like what I was. A nurse, a mother, a woman who kept records. Lily was asleep by 8:30. I made her lunch for the next day and left it in the refrigerator with a note stuck to the bag. I love you. Dr. Tran will pick you up after school. I'll be home by dinner. I sat at the kitchen table with the binder, 3 inches thick. I didn't read through it. I'd memorized most of it by now. Instead, I ran my hand over the cover, feeling the weight. Every tab was a decision I'd made. The CPS report. The night I chose to keep her. The emails. 96 months of reaching out to people who didn't reach back. The recordings. 2 calls where Amanda asked for money and hung up when I mentioned her daughter. Margaret's letter. No further contact. Thomas's affidavit. A man I'd known for barely a year, who'd seen more clearly than my own parents what Lily needed. The adoption decree. The day a judge made permanent what I'd already decided in the parking lot of a courthouse 3 years earlier with a baby asleep in the back seat. I closed the binder and set it beside my keys. Walked through the house, checking locks, turning off lights. Paused at the front door. The porch light was on. I looked at it through the glass. That same yellow bulb, same fixture, same warm circle on the concrete step. Tomorrow I'd walk into the same courthouse where I'd signed guardianship papers 9 years ago. This time I wasn't asking for permission. I was answering for what I'd built. 5 a.m. coffee. My hands shook slightly when I poured the water. First time. I held the mug with both hands and drank it standing at the counter, watching the sky lighten through the kitchen window. Then I got dressed, checked my reflection once, picked up the binder, and drove to the Burke County Courthouse. Karen Bellamy was waiting at the entrance in a charcoal suit, briefcase in one hand, takeout coffee in the other. She handed me the coffee without a word. We walked in together. The courtroom was the same one. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, American flag in the corner. I'd been here 3 times before. Guardianship, termination of parental rights, adoption. Each time I'd left with more responsibility and less family. This would be the 4th. Amanda was already seated on the left side of the gallery with Russell Drake. She wore a cream blouse, pearl earrings, the same ones from the porch visit, and an expression of practiced concern. Hands folded on the table, posture perfect. Margaret sat behind her, rigid as a fence post. Robert was beside Margaret, looking at the floor. I walked past them. Didn't make eye contact. Sat down at the respondent's table, opened the binder, and placed my hands flat on the cover. Karen sat beside me and organized 3 folders. Neither of us spoke. The clerk called the room to order. Judge Harold Whitfield entered. Late 50s, silver hair cropped close, reading glasses perched on his nose. He sat down, reviewed papers on his bench for a moment, and then spoke. In the matter of the petition for custody modification regarding the minor child Lily Rose Porter, case number 24-CVD-1847, I'd like to begin with the sealed file. Drake went first. He called Amanda to the stand. She walked to the witness chair with measured steps, dabbed her eyes with a tissue before she even sat down. Ms. Porter, Drake began, can you describe your relationship with the minor child? Amanda's voice trembled, carefully. Lily is my daughter. I gave birth to her. I loved her from the moment she was born. And why did you leave her with your sister? Amanda looked at the judge. I was 26. I was alone. The father, Thomas, he didn't even know. My parents were ashamed of me. I didn't know what to do. I thought Andrea could give Lily a better life while I got back on my feet. Did you intend to return? Always. I always planned to come back. Drake paused for effect. Did you attempt to reconnect with your daughter? Many times. But Andrea, she made it clear I wasn't welcome. She cut me off from my own child. Amanda straightened in the chair. We're her real family. Blood is blood. Margaret testified next. Same polished grief, same rehearsed helplessness. We begged Andrea to let us see Lily. She refused every time. You kept her from us. That's what she did. Robert went last. He sat in the witness chair with a single note card and read from it in a voice that cracked twice. Family should be together. We want to know our granddaughter. We have a right to that. He looked up once, at me, for half a second, and then looked back at his card. His shoulders caved inward, just slightly. Not enough for the judge to notice, but I did. Karen didn't cross-examine any of them. She made 3 notes on her legal pad, underlined one, and said, "Your Honor, we'd like to present our response." Karen stood. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to direct the court's attention to Exhibit A, the sealed adoption record of Lily Rose Porter, previously admitted for judicial review." Judge Whitfield had the file in front of him. He'd been reading it while Amanda and my parents testified. Now he opened it fully, adjusted his glasses, and turned pages. The courtroom was silent except for paper. His expression was neutral for the first page, neutral for the second. By the third, something shifted. A tightening around his jaw, a slight narrowing of his eyes. He read Margaret's letter. He read the CPS report from the night of abandonment. He read the TPR ruling. Involuntary. Based on abandonment. Amanda served by publication. No response. He read the adoption decree. Then he turned to the last section. Thomas Garrett's affidavit. He read it slowly. His finger traced a line at the bottom of the page. The part where Thomas had underlined "under no circumstances" twice. He read it again. Then he set the file down, removed his glasses, looked at Amanda, seated at the petitioner's table, looked at Margaret and Robert behind her, looked at Russell Drake. Then he looked at me. "Ms. Porter." He meant me. "Does the petitioning party have any knowledge of the contents of this file?" I understood what he was asking. Whether Amanda and my parents knew what they were up against, whether they understood the weight of what they'd walked into. "Your Honor," I said. My voice was even, quiet. They were present for every event documented in that file. They chose not to act on any of them. Judge Whitfield held my gaze for a moment. Then he turned to Amanda and her attorney. "Do they have any idea what's in here?" I simply nodded. Karen walked the court through the file piece by piece, not rushing, not raising her voice. She laid out facts the way I lay out vitals on a patient chart, measured, sequential, impossible to misread. "Your Honor, the petitioner alleges systematic alienation. The record tells a different story." She held up the email log. The respondent sent 96 monthly emails to Margaret and Robert Porter over an 8-year period. Each email included a photo of Lily and an invitation to visit. Responses received. 1. From Robert Porter. Month 7. She read Robert's reply aloud. "She looks healthy." That was all. 8 years of invitations, and that was the only reply. She held up Margaret's letter from the guardianship hearing. "Read it in full. We do not oppose guardianship but request no further contact regarding this matter." Then Karen pulled up the text message from Margaret. "Sent the night of abandonment." She read it without inflection. "She's your burden now. Amanda made her mess. We're not cleaning it up." The courtroom was still. Margaret's face went pale. She gripped the edge of the bench with both hands. Karen turned to Amanda's phone calls. The petitioner made 2 phone calls to the respondent in 10 years. Neither call inquired about Lily's health, education, or welfare. Both calls requested money. She played a 15-second clip from the second recording. Amanda's voice, clear and sharp. "You owe me. You have my kid." Then the timeline. Karen placed a single sheet on the overhead projector. 2 dates. September 3rd. The day Amanda accessed Thomas Garrett's public probate records online. September 25th. The day the custody petition was filed. 22 days, Your Honor. Between discovering that the child's deceased biological father left a trust valued at $278,000 and filing this petition. She paused. "This case isn't about a child, it's about a trust fund." Drake objected. Judge Whitfield looked at him over his glasses. Overruled. Karen read Thomas's affidavit aloud, the full text. When she reached the final line, "Under no circumstances should custody or trust management be transferred to Amanda Marie Porter." Amanda's hands dropped to her lap. Judge Whitfield took less than 5 minutes. He didn't retire to chambers. He didn't ask for a recess. He spoke from the bench with his glasses in one hand and the sealed file in the other. The court has reviewed the sealed adoption record, the evidence presented by both parties, and the testimony of the petitioner and co-petitioners. The facts are as follows. He listed them without emotion. Amanda Marie Porter's parental rights were involuntarily terminated 7 years prior due to willful abandonment under North Carolina General Statute 7B-1111. She did not contest. She did not appeal. The adoption of Lily Rose Porter by Andrea Elaine Porter was final, lawful, and properly executed. Sealed records confirmed unbroken compliance with all statutory requirements. The petitioner had no legal standing to seek custody modification. The petition is denied and dismissed with prejudice, he said. On the grandparent visitation claim, the co-petitioners voluntarily disengaged from the child's life for the entirety of her upbringing. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that the respondent made consistent, documented efforts to include them. Further, the timing of this petition, filed 22 days after the discovery of the child's inheritance, raises substantial concerns regarding the motivating factors behind this filing. The request for court-ordered visitation is denied. Amanda stood before the judge, finished speaking. Her chair scraped the floor. "That's my daughter." Her voice split the courtroom. "You can't do this. She's my blood. You stole my child." She pointed at me. "You stole everything." The bailiff stepped forward. Drake reached for Amanda's arm. She yanked it away. "This isn't over." Judge Whitfield's voice cut clean. "Remove the petitioner if she cannot maintain order." The bailiff escorted Amanda to the hallway. Margaret stood and followed, chin high, jaw locked. Robert was last. He paused at the door and looked at me. One long, quiet look, then walked out. The courtroom emptied. Karen touched my arm. "It's done." I sat there for a moment. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The clerk filed papers. The American flag in the corner hung still. I picked up the binder, tucked it under my arm, and walked out. The hallway was empty. Amanda, Margaret, and Robert were gone. No scene in the parking lot, no final confrontation. Just the sound of my shoes on the courthouse tile and the October sun coming through the glass doors at the end of the hall. I drove to Dr. Tran's house. She lived in a brick rancher on the east side of town, garden out front, wind chimes on the porch. Lily was sitting on the steps when I pulled up, shoes untied, reading a book. She looked up when my car door opened and started running before I was halfway across the lawn. "What happened?" I knelt on the grass and held her face in my hands. "Nobody is taking you anywhere. Not today. Not ever." She hugged me hard enough to bend my blazer collar. Dr. Tran stood in the doorway and gave me a nod. That was enough. We drove home with the windows down. The air smelled like fallen leaves and wood smoke. October in the foothills, when the mountains turn copper and the light goes gold by 4 in the afternoon. Lily hummed a song from school, something about kindness, slightly off-key. We pulled into the driveway. The porch light was on. It had been on that morning when I left, and it was still on now, the way it had been on every night for 10 years. Lily ran up the steps and turned the doorknob. "Come on, Mama." I stood in the driveway for one more breath. Then I went inside. We did homework, made spaghetti, played Uno. Normal evening. Normal was the victory. A week later, Margaret called. I picked up on the second ring. Her voice was cold, clipped, the version of her that came out when she'd lost and needed someone to blame. "I hope you're satisfied." This was never about satisfaction, Mom. This was about Lily. "You turned this family into strangers. You were strangers the night you closed your door." The line went quiet. She hung up. I didn't call back. I put the phone on the counter and started making dinner. Amanda disappeared again. Back to Charlotte, back to silence. This time the absence was mine to choose, and choosing it felt different from enduring it. Robert sent a letter 2 weeks later. Handwritten on plain white paper, folded twice. 3 lines. "I should have done better. I know that now. I'm sorry." I read it at the kitchen table while Lily did homework across from me. I didn't show it to her. I folded it, put it in the binder, between the adoption decree and the trust documents, and closed the cover. I didn't throw it away. I didn't write back. Some apologies arrived too late to need a response, but too honest to deserve the trash can. That Saturday night, I stood on the porch after Lily went to bed. The light was on. Crickets and cool air and the mountains dark against the sky. 10 years ago, I'd stood in this same spot and picked up a baby wrapped in a lavender blanket with a one-line note pinned to her carrier. Now that baby was inside, 10 years old, safe, sleeping with the same blanket patched twice, and loved past threadbare. Family isn't a word you inherit. It's a promise you keep. One morning at a time, one bedtime story at a time, one porch light left on at a time, and nobody who walked away from that promise for 10 years gets to redefine it in a courtroom. 96 emails, 2 phone calls about money, 1 lavender blanket patched twice, 1 binder 3 inches thick, 1 sealed file that held 10 years of proof that showing up matters more than showing off. If you've ever been the one who stayed, who chose a child, chose the hard road, chose the quiet love that nobody applauds, this story was always yours. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.